All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a question that I am positive you have asked yourself at some point.
You know the feeling, right? Why can you get totally lost for hours in a topic you're passionate about, but then you can barely keep your eyes open reading a single chapter of a textbook you have to get through? Is that just a personal quirk, or is there something bigger going on here? Well, it turns out science has a really fascinating answer. So, the secret ingredient we're talking about today? It's the power of interest. That feeling of real, genuine curiosity. It's not just a nice little bonus to have when you're learning. It's actually a fundamental, kind of powerful ingredient that can change the entire game.
And this idea has a name: personalized learning by interest. It's actually a pretty simple concept. Just imagine, what if your math problems were all about your favorite baseball player's stats? Or what if your history class was taught through the lens of how video games evolved? It's just this brilliant idea of connecting what you have to learn with what you already love to learn.
Now that all sounds great, right? But the real question is, does it actually work? I mean, really? Well, to find out, a group of researchers went on this massive investigation. They wanted to settle the question for good. Is this interest effect a real thing? And if so, how strong is it?
And the way they did this is pretty cool. They used an incredibly powerful scientific tool called a meta-analysis. Think of it like this. Instead of just trusting one single experiment, which might have its own weird results, a meta-analysis is like a study of studies. It scoops up all the best research on a topic, mashes the results together, and finds the overall truth. It's the closest we can get to a definitive answer.
And the scale of this thing was just wow. We're talking about data from 34 separate, high-quality studies all rolled into one.
And those studies involve nearly 6,000 different learners. So this wasn't just some small local experiment. This was a huge global look at how our brains work, which makes the results super reliable. So, what did they find?
Okay, this is the good part. This is the big reveal. After digging through all that data, the researchers found that personalizing learning gives you 4 major measurable wins. So take a look at these bars. These numbers you see, they're called effect sizes. Now, what does a number like 0.55 even mean? Well, to put it in perspective, in this kind of research, anything over 0.5 is considered a large effect. It's a really big deal. And as you can see, personalization gives a large boost to your interest, and it causes a large drop in that feeling of brain strain. On top of that, you get a solid medium-sized boost to your memory and your ability to apply what you've learned. This isn't just a tiny improvement, it's a major upgrade for your brain.
Okay, so we know it works, the results are clear, but how? How does simply being interested produce these big wins? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about cognitive load. That's the sciencey term for what we call brain strain. Think of your brain's attention like the RAM on a computer. It's got a limited amount. When something is boring or feels totally irrelevant, you use up a ton of that mental energy just forcing yourself to focus. But when the material actually connects to something you care about, paying attention is effortless, and that frees up all that mental bandwidth for the stuff that matters, actually understanding the new information. Then you've got retention, which is just a fancy word for memory. And this study basically confirmed what we all kind of feel in our gut, right? We remember things we find interesting way better than things we find dull. But now, it's not just a feeling. We've got the hard data that shows, yep, personalizing what you learn gives your memory a real significant boost.
And finally, there's transfer. And let me tell you, this one is the holy grail of learning. It's one thing to memorize a formula for a test. It is completely different, much higher level skill to see a totally new problem in the real world and know how to use that formula to solve it. The fact that personalized learning helps with that is huge. It means it's not just making learning more fun, it's making you smarter and more effective out in the real world. Now, like any good piece of science, there's always a little fine print. It's not a magic wand that works exactly the same way for every person in every single situation. The researchers did find a few things that can tweak the results.
For example, how big of a memory boost you get might change a bit depending on the subject you're studying, or even what continent the research was done on. But, and this is the really crucial part, even with all those little variations, the positive effect was always there. The overall trend is undeniable.
And I have to pause here and make something absolutely crystal clear. This research is about personal interests, your hobbies, your passions. It is not about the old, totally disproven myth of learning styles. You know, the idea that you're a visual learner or an auditory learner. That's been debunked for years, and the researchers here make it very clear this has nothing to do with that.
This is about your motivation, not some made-up learning style. So, after all that, where does this leave us? What is the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for you, whether you're a student, a teacher, or just someone who wants to keep learning things?
It all boils down to this. Tapping into what you genuinely care about isn't a cute little trick. It's not about making hard things easy. It is a powerful, scientifically proven strategy. You're basically hacking your own brain's motivation system to learn better. You lower the strain, you boost your memory, and you make what you learn actually stick.
So now, the secret's out. The next time you have to learn something tough, just ask yourself, how can I connect this to something I love? Can I frame this in terms of music or cooking or cars? Because the science is clear. Following your interest isn't just more fun, it's one of the smartest things you can do.